Welcome to Abroad While Black. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to have an amazing show. One of the things that you'll find is one of the issues when you look at moving abroad, particularly if you want to be an entrepreneur, is talent acquisition. So we'll be talking today with Glenn Adamafio. I'm sure he'll
Yeah,
correct me in just a second.
that's good. It's pretty
Uh,
close. It's pretty close.
yeah. So we'll be talking with him today on. We'll be talking with him today regarding talent acquisition and development and how you do all of that. And I know, Sean, this is also something that you at Ingressive also do from time to time as well.
Time to time. That's a full time operation. That's we've actually with Ingressive for Good. I'm the co-founder of this organization, nonprofit. But basically, we're creating a talent development pipeline that leads you from high school graduation, which would be SS3 here, all the way to follow-on startup funding based on our relationships with our sister company, Ingressive Capital, which is a $10 million VC fund. So yeah, we in there.
So before you get too far, do you just take the time and introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Sean Burrows. I'm the co-founder of Ingressive for Good. We are building a talent development pipeline from high school graduation to follow-on startup funding based on our relationship with Ingressive Capital, $10 million VC fund. I'm also the CEO of Burrows Enterprises, and what I'm passionate about is building this economic bridge between Africa's diaspora, Africa and Black America in particular. But yeah, we're trying to build those links and build those bridges, and I'm really happy to have Glenn on here. If I'm just going to go ahead and jump right in, I met Glenn through Kwabena Boateng. Did I say it right, Cordy? You always have to correct
Having a
me.
boating. Boating.
Thank you. Yeah. And he's my guy. I feel so bad. But basically, he has this really amazing movement going on, HBCU, Africa Homecoming. Africa, ADN, I forget what the D stands for, but they're doing great things to basically connect the HBCUs in America to the colleges and universities in the African continent. And during one of the events they were having, I came across Glenn. And we kind of reached across to each other, had a chat during that discussion, and then we kind of took it offline. And man, this brother's onto some things. He's a sharp guy. And I just get this really great feeling on how he kind of connects to having a high level skill set, but trying to apply it to where it's needed most. And that's within our communities with people who kind of understand what's going on as well. There's a little balance that you have to do with that one.
I mean, I wasn't on that conversation, but I totally love the idea of linking HBCUs into Africa, particularly because we know education is such a huge business on the continent. And I've seen so many of these white universities coming and setting up satellite campuses and like out here eating on like the opportunity to potentially travel to the US one day at one of the other satellite campuses. And my first thought is always is like, why aren't HBCUs on this? Like, why have we not thought about like bringing our college campuses here, doing greater exchange programs? Like this is, I think, a very pivotal way that we can look at connecting the diaspora, as you mentioned, Sean.
Definitely. And if I can just chip into why that happens, and then I'll pass to you, Glenn. But why I would say it doesn't happen is based on the educational system. I think Black Americans are taught about slavery and not a lot before that. And then from the African context, they kind of gloss over elements of slavery to the point where they kind of wonder what are we really complaining about? It wasn't that bad. Look where we are now. So it kind of creates this disconnect. And again, we also, we don't really value.
Glenn, I'm gonna get your opinion on that. Do you believe that hype that there's a disconnect between the diaspora and the African continent?
Well, actually, I do. I do agree with that. Being that, so a quick background. My father is from Ghana, from Accra. So I'm Ga, and then I'm also American. My mother's American. So I get to see this thing from an up close and personal situation. And it's interesting to me when my cousins come here for the first time, and then they're kind of shocked as to how much they don't know about the history of African Americans, and then how kind of ignorant Americans can be about the history of Africans. So I see that as a disconnect at times. They really don't understand each other. So then, because they don't understand where each other's perspective, you can kind of have this disconnect. But once you kind of understand it and learn it, it's easy to see, okay, we're the same and we can work together. I wanted to piggyback on that point you made earlier about the HBCUs coming over to Africa. One of the things I see, because I talk to a lot of presidents, I talk to the heads of the International Studies Department, and they say the same thing. We ain't got no money, right? So it's the same conversation all the time, and that's one of the reasons. What I'm trying to do with HBCU Thrive is three-pronged. It's working with the universities, working with the students, and working with the alumni. And one of the things for the universities is, how do we diversify the way you make money? Because just relying on tuition and relying on donations is not going to get it done. You have to diversify and get into community development, where you're starting to own companies in your not just really, also, they have their fund, they have their endowment, which, they only kick off a little bit of money that they can use, but they don't have this fund to fund some of these amazing programs, because some of them have great programs that they could go over there. Virginia State right now has a agricultural exchange with South Africa, and they're going to try to start setting up agribusiness in South Africa, but they still don't got the kind of money to really fund it. And so that's the other piece I really love with, speaking of Kwabena, that's a piece that he was talking about, getting the businesses involved. I think that's going to be a major piece to putting this whole thing together. Entrepreneurship.
But for me, when I hear that people don't have money, I feel like these are people that may not know how to leverage existing resources. Because When I look at universities and I look at all of the first generation Africans, as I like to refer to myself, because I'm also African. When you look at all of us that are out there that are half African, half American, that have moved back to the continent, that still have contacts on the continent, I feel like money is almost an illusionary barrier. And I think that we find this reoccurring in Black communities worldwide. And I think this is even the platform of why we have Abroad While Black, because whenever people tell me I can't do it because of money, I'm like, this person really, they don't want to do it. They don't want to do it, because when I look at the fact that you are a public institution, that you have a critical service that you can then offer to a government, and that there are agencies like USAID, DFIDA, whole banks, World Bank, people that like literally give millions of dollars of grants, and they're looking for people that partner with academic institutions. Maybe we just don't know how to raise money.
That's true. That's also very, very true. I think we have people with knowledge like yourself. They need to connect with the alumni. The alumni need to plug back in, because that conversation that you just had will be powerful to speak to the head of international studies and just say, look, I could show you how to put the program together. I can put here's the roadmap. Boom, 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 boom. Let's do it. And now you have no excuse. But there's so much of that is disconnected when you start to see who's in our alumni base. Like, you really see it, you're like, okay, y'all just not paying attention, because you could do so much connecting, so much leveraging. So right. I agree.
And this is why, again, I say there's a disconnect, and it's a more nuanced disconnect. It's not necessarily like one side is like, I hate you, and the other side is like, well, I hate you too. It's this nuanced disconnect that why wouldn't that be a natural progression of thought? Why wouldn't we naturally want to connect to where we are, where we come from, where our roots come from? And again, those roots for many of us, this is why I was kind of making my face and whatnot. I don't have any direct connection to the African continent. I will assume once I put a ring on it. But as it stands now, basically.
Wait. Did you say you put a ring on it?
Can I just be that savage gentleman briefly without you always trying to jump out there?
No, you can't. That wouldn't play into our roles that we've established for ourselves. Yes, I need to know. The viewers want to know what's happening.
Speaking of which, we skipped over a very interesting area, but I think we got kind of deep into this one. But again, it's just, to me, it's always funny that there's not a natural yearning to reconnect where we already have resources and different things going on. And I'm not going to lie, Cordy, I really never ever thought about connecting these various grants and government programs they have, because again, a lot of what they are looking for is, do you have the capacity to do these things? Have you handled a certain amount of money before? Because, you know, I've had to write for a couple of grants as well. And it just seems like if a university, especially an HBCU, was to step into that space and say, hey, we want to do this, we want to launch this program, they wouldn't even really have to think about it. Just looking at all the government red tape and loopholes and different things they have to be on top of just to operate as a university.
And let me tell you what I recently learned from, you know, it's important to always keep your white friends around, because your white friends peep you the game that you didn't know nothing about, but for them it's like second nature. Someone peeped me to the game that they basically put together projects. They identify, so they themselves put together the partners, get everything together. They then start approaching these large organizations like UNDP, the EU, the World Bank, the African Development Bank, in areas they know they have interest in. And basically what they do is allow those organizations, like you said, to be the front for the money. So no, I may not have ever handled $3 million, but what I can do is I can put it through this particular organization, which has handled that. And now basically we are instantly the people they're going to give the money to. There are so many ways to get around this. I think we just have to be a little bit more creative in how we do it. And when it comes to why isn't it a natural attrition? So what I observed from my time at a HBCU, it seems African students are really sometimes very isolated at HBCUs. Typically outside of being part of the African Student Union Association, they're typically not really embraced by the overall population. Think back, how many African friends did you have from your college career, or how many Africans can you even name that were on Jackson State campus or Virginia State? So I think that the disconnect comes from the fact that even when they come to our schools, mind you, we're on financial aid, they're paying in cash. Even when money comes to these schools, we're not building the relationships that need to be happening so that when they go back, we can leverage.
That's absolutely true. I think, you know, this is something, this might be off topic, but just to kind of piggyback back off that, one of the things I thought would be necessary is kind of this cultural exchange, you know, where, and this is something simple. It's simple and it probably breaks down nothing, but, you know, college students like to party. And I'm like, you need to set it up so that these kids can get an exchange. It was funny, when I went to HBCU, I'm from Jersey. So I go down to Virginia and the music is totally different because they're playing music that comes from the South. They're not playing the music that I'm listening to. They're not playing Dipset and all that stuff that I was playing, you know, when I was you know, in Jersey, and they're not playing the Jersey club.
Don't date yourself now. Don't date yourself.
Hey, I ain't that old. I ain't that old though.
I am that old. That's myself. Let's go.
I'm getting there though. But you know, it's funny because but one thing I did recognize is I got exposed to different types of music. I had never heard go-go. I had never heard go-go before I came to school. You know, I had never heard go-go before, and I think that would be powerful.
That's DC though.
That's DC. I know it's not, but to me, when you're from Jersey, that's the South.
I got to correct you. You telling me maybe you didn't know it's go-go, but you don't remember that song doing the but
oh yeah. Okay. I ain't that old.
Go-go.
I ain't that old.
Whoa. Hey, are you a Spike Lee fan?
Shots fired.
I am. I know the song. I know, but I ain't that old.
Damn, you just cast
Fine. I'm looking fresh.
But I would love to see us kind of like tie into that, where when African students come in, they have the music. The music is popular right now, but just some of the cultural items to bring everybody together so they know, okay, this is where these people come from. This is some of the things that represent them, and everybody can become more comfortable. I think it's just that divide of I don't know you, you don't know me, I don't know what you do kind of stuff. Once you get to know people, it's easy.
I would say I think it's a bit further, especially what I see with Black Americans in particular. Black Americans are hella aggressive. Like, when you come back to Africa and you realize, and I was like, especially me, like when people were standing too close to me, I was like, oh, it's disrespect, son. You know what I'm saying? When people, like all these little small things that were like triggers for me that made me feel uncomfortable. I found out that I was just like a really rowdy person, and I just had been some way. And I think that, again, when you're kind of at, in many ways, Black Americans, we know we're at kind of the bottom of the totem pole. And when you're at the bottom, you see it also with like poor white people, and you know why Trump is so popular, but you're looking for somebody to be beneath you. You're looking for somebody, a reason or a way to say that I'm better or I'm bigger or whatever. Yeah. And I think a lot of times Black Americans, we will ride the negative stereotypes and propaganda that has been shared about the African continent to feel like we're bigger, not knowing, again, what Courtney tapped into is that these people that are coming here from the African continent are probably like, while you're on student aid, taking loans, working in the cafeteria like I did to kind of pay off student debt and all this different stuff, their parents paid cash.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
If they have $1, they are richer than you because they are not in debt.
But one of the things I think that's also important to realize is that it's not as easy to integrate. And I think that, once again, I don't think that this is just an African American thing. I think living on the continent, you see that when people, as humans, we want to be able to prove why we're different. It's more for our own inner ego than anything else. On the continent, what that looks like is classism. It looks like the fact that I don't talk to you because you didn't go to a certain school, or because you've never traveled abroad, or because you sell spare car parts, or because your mother is a market woman and doesn't speak English well. I think that we look at all these different things, but I think that this is where the development of talent, which is really our topic today, really comes in, because I think we can find talent among all levels, and I think that we can draw those connections among talent so that where one may be weak, there's an opportunity for growth and strength that we can find in another one. So Glenn, maybe you can just tell us a little bit about what you do, and how you're doing it, and the vision for what you're doing.
Okay. All right. So what I'm doing is I'm developing a program, a business by the name of HBCU Thrive. I have an uncle, he says, don't use the word program, but it's actually, okay, great. So what I'm doing is I'm putting together a business that is all about working with HBCUs, HBCU students, HBCU alumni. As far as the talent development side, well, what I know for a fact is that we already have tons of talented people in these organizations, in these universities. These students that come through the alumni base, it's all talent. It's just really figuring out ways to apply that talent, right? Nurture it and apply it and figure out applications. And so what I'm focusing on with students is really providing them opportunities to learn and earn. So learn entrepreneurship, earn from the activities that they do, and then take those skill sets and leverage them to create other businesses moving forward. Some of the ways that we're going to do that is working with the alumni. So we have tons of alumni that own businesses. And one of the things that you know about, or you may not know, but a lot of African-American businesses don't hire anybody. They're solopreneurs. They don't really grow because they don't have access. Well, they think they don't have what it takes to hire. And so that comes really from not understanding it. So it could be money, but it's also not understanding business in a sense, not knowing your numbers, right?
That so, you have to spend to grow, basically.
Exactly. Thinking you have to spend so much when you can leverage the transaction, just understanding if I can bring this transaction, I can slice it. One of the things I did, I've had several jobs as a 100% commission-based sales. So that was the thing that I did when I got out of school. I got into sales, and I learned that you can build a commission structure based on performance. So these are kids who need opportunity, and if I can bring this kid in 18, 19, 20 years old, has a mind and ready to go and looking for opportunity, and you show, okay, you have a proven system, you know what it takes to get this thing done, let's put it together. Now, if I can get you 10, 20 transactions, how much money is that, right? So you have enough to hire somebody, you just don't know how to put it together. Similar to what you were saying earlier about the schools. You have the resources are there, it's just not understanding how to put it together. So when I look at the talent development, the other piece is training. So this is something that people don't talk about, but I came into several organizations when I got out of school and realized there's no training, there's no structure of how to reach mastery in any skill set. So that's the other part. Like, how do we take these kids and then show them whatever skill set it's going to be, a systematic approach to going from beginner level, because that's where you are when you come out of school. You're a beginner, and then mastering the skill set. So those are the things I'm looking at. Working with the alumni, working with the students, matching them together, and then hopefully allowing these students to take these skill sets and create businesses that will then bring in more talent, hire the kids themselves. You're on campus, you got a team. One of the things I not to ramble, but one of the things I was so amazed with was when I go back to school, the people I sat in class with and didn't know. Like, how did I not meet you? You're a freaking, top lawyer in New York City. You're one of the women that was in my class. She's one of the top people at TV One. I'm like, how did I didn't know you when I was in school? Like, it doesn't make no sense. So, just connecting with these people and understanding, like, you got talent sitting next to you. So let's figure out how do we build together and then hire the rest of them.
I think that that's a really valid point. And one of the things that I share with you is that I actually have worked some commission-only jobs. And a lot of people shy away from it, but I've always made a killing at it. Like, I mean, straight killing. And not only that, but I feel like it really has developed my skill set in a whole new way. And I think that even when you're looking at building out an organization, we know I founded an organization here in Ghana, Environment 360. And one of the challenges is finding people that want to improve themselves or want to take themselves to the next level. So it's not just about landing a job or getting an internship and coming in and going to get my wache from up the street and, bringing me water and doing my printing when I ask you to. We're really looking for people that can take our organizations to the next level and grow them. So it's very interesting that you two share this network marketing experience. And I wonder if these types of people or building this type of structure into your business might actually be the key to growth in a lot of these smaller Black businesses.
For me, I think it is. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, Sean. No, go ahead. Well, for me, from what I've experienced, that is the case. So I've owned several different businesses. I've been, in entrepreneurship since right after I graduated college, and just getting into it, understanding like I don't have the money to hire, all the time. I didn't have a bunch of money, but what I did once I understood what I needed to do, I said, okay, I can bring you in, train you to do this, and every time I make $1,000, I can pay you $300. You know what I mean? And then it's like, okay, now if you just keep doing this, I can pay you a whole lot of money. So that's where it becomes, and what happens is you can expand your company by giving somebody else an opportunity, not necessarily. And I know, people talk about the network marketing. I've never done network marketing, but I know even in regular business, in a strictly a business sense, you can. I worked at Nissan. I worked at Nissan. I sold cable for Verizon. That was 100% commission. So you learn to eat what you kill. And real estate is 100% commission. So you just learn to eat what you kill. But the problem is a lot of times there's no training, there's no structure, there's nobody teaching you how to become a master at it. So then it's like, you fall off. But if you figure it out, you can really scale up a business and provide a lot of opportunity. And once you have that income structure, then you have all these other jobs that open up. You're going to need people who are your drivers, who are your programmers. Those you need to figure out the transaction model first, though. That has to be there. So
yeah, man, you've raised a lot of good points. I think one of the major ones I wanted to tap into And sorry, Cordy
Who's
has some
Cordy?
technical difficulties. She'll be jumping back on in a second.
Okay.
But I think one of the things that you tapped into, knowingly or unknowingly, is that if you ever plan on running your own business, just understand that the run your own business model is commission only.
Absolutely, 100%. 100%.
Man, so I remember Cordy said she worked a commission only job. I also worked a commission only job. And I think that being in those situations where you only eat if you can get that deal through the door, it by fire, it builds a skill set that you will take with you throughout the rest of your life. And I would say for anybody who wants to create their own business, one major way for if you're younger, this is not a risk you might want to take if you're more established, but I would say take a commission only job just to get your feet wet. Take a network marketing job to get your feet wet. One thing that I love about what I see about network marketing structures is that they do try to build a whole entire environment around getting you pumped up to sell and kind of giving you tips and tactics and different things like that. That whole network for the good structure. Some are terrible.
Some are terrible.
Yeah, there's a lot of training. There's a lot of these motivational speaking types, but basically they're making you meet like once a week, getting everybody into the room, having everybody stand up and say what you sold, what you did not sell. Like, so they're coming at it from embarrassment. They're coming from it from, again, training. They're coming from it from so many different angles, where I would say, and then again, also it teaches you a business structure that you can recreate. I always thought, especially within the African continent, that any network marketing scheme would work here. And we use scheme here as to mention business or program, but any network marketing business model would work particularly well here from the point of view that a lot of business here is done in social spaces. In social environments and through social relationships. You'll find yourself meeting people and being able to, you thought you were just having drinks and different things like that, but you're also basically closing the deal. This is primarily the reason why I've never let loose within Legos, because it's always business.
Well, what's so funny about that is not unique in the sense that that's how a lot of business is done, but people don't talk about it. Like when you, we're not privy to that information. But the truth of the matter is, building a solid network is so powerful. Business happens all the time. It's like you just fall into business. Oh, you do that. My guy, he needs a guy for that, and you're just having a conversation. It happens all the time. That's one of the reasons I'm doing what I do. Like I wanted to figure out a way to work with the people I wanted to work with. I don't want to work with everybody. I want to work with who I want to work with.
And this is one interesting thing about network marketing that made sense to me later on in the game. But if you join any network marketing team, what they try to get you to do is basically go through your friends and your family list and different things like that. Reach out to people. Hey, I got this opportunity for you. And interestingly enough, I found when I started my own business, I was kind of going through that same mentality of reaching out to people. And before, when it was something that was not for me or something that I didn't believe in, it was the corniest, most embarrassing thing in the world to call somebody, be like, hey, you can get a discount by buying such and such and such. I want to hook you up. I want to bring you on. But when I started my own business, I was calling people like, hey, man, I want to help you out. I want to bring you on. So it's really interesting how these skill sets come to play at different points in your life once you learn.
Absolutely.
Let me ask this. Let me dive into this. I know you, but I want us to go all in a circle. We can start with whoever, but I want to ask everybody a question, because I have this theory that the Black community globally is experiencing the same issues in different places. And we're just not having a group conversation, so we think it's just us. So with that being said, I'll start with you, Glenn. Tell me a little bit from your perspective what you feel like is the talent gap that would prevent an HBCU grad from stepping into a full position or entry-level position from what you're seeing now.
For me, really, it's that the groundwork hasn't been done. Essentially, so I have a guy that I talk, my martial arts teacher, right? He talks about the difference between, I'm a karate nerd. He's a philosopher though. He went to school for philosophy. Deep guy, has a lot of really good conversations. We're talking about the difference between white supremacy and racism, right? And he says a lot of times people get upset. They miscategorize things. They call white supremacy racism, and said now the difference is that white supremacy means I want my group to have the best of everything. I would like my group to have first access to opportunity, to resources, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, and the thing about that, I've always felt like I ain't mad at you for that, right? So because if we reverse it, I feel the exact same way, right? So when I say, I could say that. I can say that comfortably. So my thing is, what we have not done too often in America, and probably the same situation, probably different barriers, but still, we have not invested into building the infrastructure where when you go to you develop talent, you have this, you go to a college, you learn finance, but then you got to go outside of your community and ask another man for a job, right? And so now, if I'm that other man, why would I hire you versus hire my brother's son? That's how I feel about it. And so that and I'm like, when I look at it, I'm like, so the thing that we have to do, probably it's around the world.
Let me stop you right there, because you touched on something very important. Because why would I hire somebody else than my brother's son? Even imagine if my brother had a child, even if that child was not as good as the talent available around me, I'm still going to hire him, invest and develop in him, because he's part of my group. He's part of my
group. Let me just break it down for y'all. This is why women-led businesses are killing the game, because I don't care who you are. If you don't have the talent, you don't have the talent. I don't care if you are related to my husband. I don't care if you're my nephew. I don't care if I'm looking for pure talent. And I think that white people are very successful at doing this, but I don't think blacks, and I think that's why our businesses don't make it past one generation. I think that you look at like the Bush family, who, when you look at George as a historic, screw up, right? But yet he still managed to be president. And I think that you have to look at, even in their worst of times, they're still grown better than our worst. So I can't take my cousin that basically has been in and out of jail 4 times, no proper etiquette, and give him a job just because.
Well, I won't respond to that because I agree. I understand where you're coming from with that, but that discounts that we have this massive talent that's already built in. Like, we all went to HBCU, so the type of talent that's right there. A lot of our alumni are not even tapping into that. So you have a business, and let's say you are in finance or you're in insurance. You got a kid that's graduating from the business school that could easily be somebody that comes in and works in your business, but you've never tapped into that. You've never been. So meanwhile, the white insurance company is on Norfolk State University's campus. They're on Virginia State University campus. And you, as a black business owner, alumni of the school, has not even touched the campus in 5 years, except for to come to homecoming, right? So, like, that
homecoming be lit, though.
Homecoming do be lit. I ain't gonna lie, I'm there. And look, I'm gonna try to get the Jackson State homecoming. Y'all got Deion Sanders, I'm out there,
Time in the city, bro.
But I agree.
But I think this comes back to what you were saying. You made a point earlier. I don't think most of our college career is actually spent networking. I think that this is a skill set that when you are out and you sort of hit some of these marketing to marketing opportunity or business marketing opportunities, that you sort of learn the value. And I'm even going to tell you how I was actually peeped into Game on Politics is E-Dub. He knows who he is. E-Dub turned me on to politics. This was a dude where I used to do his homework. Like, we was cool. I didn't have books. He had books, so he would let me use his books. I would do his homework. So he comes to me suddenly. I didn't realize his people actually had money. So he comes to me. He's like, look, my mom is running for political office in Mississippi. I want to link you. Like, I want you to work for the campaign. This was like my end. This was the dude that, like, if I would have, like you said, I mean, if I'd have been like, yeah, he's not as smart as me or he's not linked, I probably wouldn't have got many of my opportunities in life. And when I tell you, his mom became one of my biggest mentors. Like, she taught me like most of my game to this day, like how to walk into a room and run it, how to network, how if your name isn't on the guest list to still get in the door. Like, she taught me all of these skills that I still apply to being in business today.
Mm.
So let me just jump in. So to follow back to the question, so Glenn, you mentioned that one of the skill gaps is, or what leads to the skill gaps is that they didn't put enough time, energy, and effort into building out the infrastructure. And then again, we kind of are not understanding how to hire from within and different things like that. Cordy, you mentioned networking is a major, and I think you mentioned networking, but that's a two-way street as well. These students do need to put themselves out there, probably in a more polished and whatever fashion. But I also think that these businesses need to reach back as well. But Cordy, going back to you, were there any other things, and Glenn, you as well, were there any other things that that you would see that was kind of creating that gap that's stopping students from getting into business, getting hired?
I think sometimes it's confidence too. I think people, and I think this is once again a barrier worldwide, is people think that when I'm starting my own business, like I need $40,000, like I need to go and take a loan, like I need all of these things. And we know most people from the Black community, particularly young people, they can't just walk into a bank and be like, hey, yo, what's up? I'm here. I want to start a business. Let me get 20G. You don't have a co-signer. You don't have credit built up. You don't have collateral. You don't have any of these things that are really critical. And because of this, I think that it's really difficult. And I think we even see this here on the continent, is you see a lot of young people and they're like, yeah, I really admire your business and you're doing so well. And, you know, sometimes I have to tell people, like, you have to believe, like I started Environment 360 with 500 Ghana cedis, which nowadays is like maybe $100, less than $100. I negotiated office space and I worked my tail off, and God saw fit to bless us, and Environment 360 just kept growing to a point where, I mean, we manage like over 2 million CDs each year, right? Which is maybe about $500,000. And mind you, this has only been in a 6-year span. So imagine, God willing, I mean, when you look at us 8 years from now or 10 years from now, we should be even bigger than that. But I literally started with just a dream. And I feel like Black people are sold this thing where you need to have everything in order before you can actually start something.
I think, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to piggyback on that. You know, that's an amazing story. And I think one of the issues that comes out of that is, I forget who said this, but like I think this is in A Miseducation of the Negro, right? The whole idea of educated away from the ice cart. I might not be there, but it's this thing, right? So I used to see this about a number of my friends. We would have this conversation. Your father started something, right? They started something. You, instead of taking what they've built and then learning a skill set to take it further, decide, I don't want anything to do with that because it's not, you know, it's not cool, it's not whatever. And it's like, yeah, but you already, like, your father's has an electrician and he built an electrician business, you know what I mean? And he's doing well with it. Okay, well, what doesn't he know what skill sets he didn't really get the business sense. You know how to go out there and fix it and do this, but he didn't build that business sense. So now you can go to business instead of saying, I gotta go and get this job. It's like, why? My father has a business. Let's take this thing to the next level. I'm guilty of the same thing. Don't get me wrong.
So that's three of us on one page.
Okay, but I see that happen all the time.
Yeah, my mom.
It's true.
My mom runs a daycare center. And that daycare center started in our house. I remember waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning with little kids poking me in the eye. Kids I didn't know, you can't even punch them like you do your own siblings. Okay. But yeah, now my mom.
Mississippi License Department is checking into your mama right now.
Look, it's too late. It's been 7 years since that little boy poked me in the eye. He know better now. I saved his life. Anyway. But now my mom is. Yeah, built character. But now my mom's like launched her second building, one of the top daycare facilities in the entire state. And it's just like, I don't know if it was trauma from those children. I'm 38. I'm not married. I don't have children. And I think it's just because like, I know what it's like to have children already.
But when you say that.
Go ahead.
So I was going to say, when you say this, I think that it's funny because I also think something that I see both, and maybe it's because my parent was a migrant, an immigrant to the U.S., but one of the things that I've also noticed is I think that Black parents stress to their children so much that you need to be independent and get your own, that we don't see the glory in building out. And I see this not only in the U.S., but I see this even here in Ghana. And it's interesting because recently I was doing some interviewing, hiring for a job, and I had one young man came in, and for me, it was so obvious this dude was an entrepreneur. It was so obvious. And his parents own a very large printing press, and he's really passionate about cars. So I was thinking, this dude is passionate about cars. His parents own a printing press. Like, why aren't you printing advertisements for the sides of vehicles or something? Like, why aren't you branching your parents out into a whole new business, like you were saying, Glenn, versus sitting here at Environment 360 talking about you want to be a program coordinator? Like, you really have it set up for you, and the world is your oyster. You just don't realize it. But is it pride sometimes that maybe even stops the development of certain talent acquisition or stalls us out?
I think. Sorry.
I think it's something far more sinister. I think it's we have a very extreme lack of self-confidence where we are more preoccupied with trying to out into this world and show people we have a certain thing. We're trying to get to the bag as quickly, as soon as possible. And we're not necessarily concerned about building a legacy oftentimes until maybe some of our parents have passed away or the business has crumbled or whatever the case may be. But me being from Mississippi and, my grandmother had 11 children. Her sisters all had double-digit children. Her mom had 13 children. I just remember, I'm even a little bit embarrassed now, but again, I come from a family where they were pumping out these babies because we was working out in the field and your family was your labor. So it's very interesting that we bring that up. I think you were about to mention something as well.
I was just going to say, Courtney made a good point earlier about the difference on the continent being classism and different things. Here, I think it's more prestige, right? So like my father or my mother started a business, and let's say they are, I don't know, in some kind of real estate trade or something like that, something that's not sexy, right? But it makes money, but it's not sexy, or it's not, being African, you're not a doctor, you're not an engineer, but we did this thing, we built something and we selling food, and that food money is clicking like every day. They selling.
My daddy owned the church's chicken, boo.
Let me tell you.
But there's a lot of that. Yeah, there's like right now there's like a shortage of, this was like 5 or 6 years ago. I don't know if it's still the case now, but there was like a shortage of forklift drivers, right? And so you could make like some stupid amount of money, like 80, 70, 80. Some people getting into six figures driving a forklift. But nobody wants to like go around saying like I drive a forklift. So they're probably going around telling people what their side hustle is as their real job.
Exactly. And I think that stops us a lot of times from just getting into there and then developing further capacity where you can even hire more people. Like, and that's the thing that trips me out. Is like, if you just develop this, you create an economic ladder for other people. Like, you give these other people opportunity, and it doesn't have to be the lowest of the lowest common denominator, but there are a lot of people who are talented, who can come into the organization and like really do some things. But then we also a lot of times we don't give them the room to do it, because it's like not taking the feedback and saying new ideas, what is possible, and letting other people's genius take us to the next level. Because a lot of times we're like, I gotta be the brains behind everything.
You tapped into something really good there as well. Let me just drop this one. I think that from my perspective, what you just touched on is something that's happening, or what I see in this space that's causing gaps in the Nigerian space, which is that the schools are not necessarily producing the type of talent at the level that is needed. And what you find is that in many ways, students who want these jobs need to take another step. There's like, and what I'm telling people in my community is that there's all different types of online resources and different things like that. COVID has shown us now that through these universities, through these educational institutions like Harvard University and whatnot, now saying that we're going to teach these classes online and we're not going to give you a refund on the money and we're not going to decrease the prices because it's Harvard and we can provide quality. Well, now I'm looking at, well, dang, when I was trying to get my degree from DeVry and you was over here telling me that this online university stuff don't count.
Not
and
DeVry.
I can't. I'm just saying. There's levels. But you understand what I'm saying? Like, but all I'm saying, I say that to say that the resources are there. And I think that, again, when it's regarding networking, when it's regarding, again, just overall skills development, I find that people need to kind of focus in. I remember when I was at a HBCU, I think I was a very sharp, very smart guy, but I also know I was trying to do just enough to get by. And have time, and just enough time to get by and then do the things that I'm interested in. Of course, there was partying and different things like that, but there was video game. There was all these different things that were distracting me. And it got to the point that when I graduated, I had this like mini early life situation, crisis, because it was like, as a university student, when you're broke, it's like, it's okay, he's a student. I can still date, I can still talk to women, I can still ask somebody to give me a ride somewhere because I'm a student. As soon as I graduated, that little cushion was over. And I think, again, I know I can't be the only student going through that. Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, definitely. But I think something that you interested, for me, training, I think is always the key. And I think one of the things we've talked about is because even in Environment 360, I talk about this because I want us to be an employee-led organization. And I think that this is really the way a lot of employers are going now. So Glenn, maybe you can talk a little bit about your methodology or how you envision getting these students that you're working with to sort of develop some of these skills that they can come in and provide constructive criticism and branch these smaller businesses or organizations out into some more critical fields or fields they've never even thought about?
Well, I have a methodology and it's not mine. One of the great things that I was exposed to really great people. I think that's been the biggest lesson in my life is like you were talking about your friend's mother being a mentor. I came across some really great mentors who taught me a lot of stuff. So the training methodology that I was taught was called RAD, repetition, accountability, and discipline, right? So like the skill sets, well, first of all, we model success. So we figure out there's two different thoughts processes of how to find talent. One is the 80-20 rule, the saying that you go after the top talent, and the top talent is going to be 2-3 times better than the next best person. So that person will have the capacity to drive so much stuff, right? But then those superstars are also hard to maintain, right? So they can go wherever they want to go, and you have to kind of, that's like the LeBron James. You better play the game, and you better, or LeBron James will walk off on you. He got no problem switching teams, right?
If it ain't no potential for a ring, I ain't playing.
I'm leaving. and so acknowledging that, but then also understanding the training to say that how do we take good performers and make them great, right? So that becomes the training methodology of modeling the best and say, what does this person do? And often the artist, the person who's really good, doesn't even know why they're good. So you have to take what they do and then break it down and say, okay, well, this is what makes them really good. And then we teach that to our people to say, okay, this is what you need to be doing. It's funny because so I was an okay basketball player, right? So I used to play basketball, but it's amazing now to watch what these kids do, how they take, and how these kids are super skilled, right? They don't have some of the passion that we had, I guess, back when I was playing. But like, if you just look at the raw skill sets, they're taking NBA level skill sets and breaking it down into their workouts. So like, these kids are really, really good. Like this next generation of kids, they can all shoot. They're all shooting from 50, like way, way out past the 3-point line. They all have crazy handle, just for the basketball analogy.
But real quick, how lovely would it be if we had Black boys and girls that could develop strategies for companies like that could branch out and bridge the dais? Like, how do we get those kids to practice? So go on.
Well, this is what I'm saying. So this is the funny thing, right? So the guys who I learned from, and it's so funny that you said that, because I'm gonna get to that point. So like the whole repetition, accountability, and discipline, learning the model, starting off and repeating it. So all skill set is like repetition. You have to get your reps in and learn how to do it. Then you have a level of accountability, saying that after a while, if you don't keep doing it, you're going to have a drop off in skill. So we have to measure, how do we get better? What needs to be improved in this process? And then we put a training, a kind of way of training to go get better. So we have to say, where's the next step? And then consistent training. So like what Sean was saying with the network marketing, they bring you in every Monday. We're going to train on this skill, and you're going to keep working to get better, right? So that any skill you can learn that way. It's the same way they teach martial arts. It's the exact same thing. You learn, you start off with the skill, you start working on it. We see, where are you? Okay, we need to make this part better. You need to turn over your punch, this kind of thing, throw your arm a little faster, and then we work on it again. Oh, you've got that, and keep pushing you to a higher level. That's my idea of the training. And the other thing was making it fun, making it enjoyable. I think that the biggest issue that we have, one of the biggest issues we have, is a misalignment from so many people. Like you were saying about the entrepreneur walking into your job, and he should be doing something else. And what's going to happen generally is he's going to be average at your company. He may be great, but because he comes into something that he's not really that interested in, and I know this from me. I'm just talking about me.
Me too.
If I'm doing something I don't really like, I'm okay. Yep. I'm only gonna be okay.
This is it, and this is exactly it, and that's why I think we were talking about earlier. Like, it's important to do what you're passionate about and find those people. Where I think you're coming to the other type of person. You were mentioning the 80-20, but I'm sure the other type of person might be that person that has that raw talent or raw skill, like you said, maybe is dedicated to learning, and that you can actually take that person into being great.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Shauna, somewhere you're on your mic. We can't hear you.
So while Sean gets that worked out, we're just going to monopolize.
All right, cool.
So Glenn, you were talking about that you're on this whole RAD methodology. So where do you envision like taking this organization? What would be your ultimate goal between bridging or creating opportunities for those HBCU students and alum? Like, where do you see this ending up at?
Well, I do the HBCU thing because I love HBCUs, but I really want to work with Black people, and I feel like working with HBCUs is like shooting in a barrel. Like it's, you know, we have the same type of mentality, but ultimately, I would love to branch into the continent, branch into South America, branch into the islands, and really trying to teach people this understanding of how do we create businesses first of all. How do we develop how do we create a pipeline for the people that we are? Because for me, it's like the whole next generation. I look at my nephews, I look at my nieces. I'm like, I don't want them to have to do the same stuff I did. You know what I mean? So how do we build that infrastructure, or start to build that infrastructure where they can take these talents and start applying them, and like you said, creating these strategies, coming in and saying, okay, this is what we're going to do to take this business that you established, older generation. You have this business that's going well. Now let us come in as the younger generation and help you go to the next level. And we own part of that. You know, we create ownership in that, where it's like we all eat. We're not just employees, but we are invested in into these businesses. And I think that where you can create. We can really create something. Like the people who are doing it are invested into it. They want to see it succeed. They want to see this thing grow. So that's would be my ultimate picture in my mind is we leverage what HBCUs have already done. They've done so much. They've built so much talent, you know, but how you start connecting it. And I think the other thing, I'll go back, my mind is all fractal. So you made a point earlier about how do we, the skill gaps. And applying it. And it's like, what's funny is this electrical engineering skill, like you went and became an electrical engineer, you're a level 1 electrical engineer, and you may work for 2 years in some business, but then not realizing like they probably need you in Panama, right? So like understanding like, how do we start building that?
This is it. Certain skills are just global, right? You don't have to be restricted when you have them.
Mm-hmm.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yep.
So not only are skills global, certain skills are like, again, I think what you were saying, like just specific to a general area, something that made, like, I remember I followed in Cordy's footsteps in university and got a degree in public relations. And then Cordy was a year ahead of me, and she reached out. She was like, yo, bruh, there's no public to relate to in Mississippi. You're going to have to bounce.
Really, that should be real. Shauna's been following me since 2004. We have.
Hey, it's following the great footsteps.
I love you. I love you. I love you.
It's worked well so far. If it ain't broke.
This is it. We've been roommates. Sean and I we crossed all the fires and mountains of friendship.
Yeah. All of them. Yeah. But I think it's very interesting. So I guess to circle back, you were talking about, you basically were breaking down, you said that you broke down the 80-20 part. You were talking about the RAD model. So I know a lot of the issues we encompass or encounter from the business side trying to hire talent is that we don't have the capacity, we don't have the time. And again, what you find, especially within the African continent, is I have a more immediate needs. My business is already not fulfilling what I needed to do. Now, how do I consider hiring someone else? So with that being said, is there like a direction you would lead somebody to as far as like reading, resources, content that would help somebody be able to find a model that they could build on when it comes to kind of putting together these things to bring in talent? Because I think it's important to mention that we do need to hire our own talent, but I think it's also important to actually give people a little bit of insight into how, because it's going to be us that's driving that conversation. It's not like the students themselves have a lot of power to do that.
So I've been blessed to have really great mentors. My mentor actually passed away about 4 years ago. So a lot of the stuff that I do, I learned from him, right? He just made me do stuff. He would be like, yo, I want you to go hire and build out a sales team of virtual assistants. You just go, start hiring people from the Philippines. I'm like, all right. So I learned this whole process of how do you hire people? How do you build out a team from doing it? And but there's also there's a few good people. So I would say.
You
So
wanna?
one of the things that I think that we definitely want to be able to talk with.
There's microphone issues all over the place today.
Hello, can you hear me?
Now we
Yeah, so
got.
let's give it a few seconds of lead time and then go into it so that the guy can cut it like perfectly. See, that's that mass communications degree in work right there. Woo!
Well done. And
Okay,
you saw,
okay, 5 seconds of serious time and then we move into the.
Yeah. So, one of the resources I would say that you could tap into. There's a couple of guys on YouTube. A lot of these guys are talking about how to build virtual teams, but they give you excellent models on how to hire, how to screen talent, because like I said, a lot of times you have this immediate need, right? So I did this for our solar energy company. I built the whole hiring model, how to write. I wrote the ads. I built the model, how we screen people. Like they had to do step 1, step 2, step 3. But once you have it set up, which is tough because, you know, you might be stuck on time. But like once you set it up, it's just a matter of looking back and saying, okay, these are my top candidates and these are the people I need to interview. I would say Joe Troyer has some great information. There was some great information on the guys who set up AppSumo. If anybody's familiar with AppSumo,
I'm
those
not,
guys
can
have.
you maybe speak a little bit about that?
AppSumo is like in a sense, a marketplace where they kind of sell different tools, business tools for online marketing.
Okay.
And like they'll have like deals, or we have a deal on this tool, that tool, and you can buy it for a certain amount of time. It's discounted. But the guy who set it up, who built that, had a hiring module and talk about how to hire, how to screen talent, how to find talent for a busy entrepreneur. I think that would be helpful to somebody just to understand the mindset of hiring talent. But the development part is hard for me to. I don't know. Like I said, I learned it from doing it. But there are some great guys out there that explain it, but I would have to like put maybe afterwards we can figure out like a list of.
oh, definitely. I would say we'll probably when we post the video, we'll work behind the scenes, get the links to them, and then we can share it with the video. Awesome.
Moments of silence to cut that part out.
I felt like we could have just rolled with it.
So I think that that's really interesting, and we'll look forward to being able to post some of those links that you mentioned to the videos and other things so that people can figure out what those are. And I wish I would have met you earlier, because one of the biggest challenges I think people face when they move abroad, particularly when they want to be entrepreneurs, is how to find the right talent. And it's not as easy. And if you've watched Abroad While Black for a while, I've told you how even hiring Americans is not the biz. Like, it's not the biz. Like, you really need people that know a local terrain, that really can culturally identify, can relate to what's currently going on in the market, and even have skill sets and ideas that bring in some of the more traditional components of business that are critical to survival. So when I look at how to actually hire, can you give me maybe we all share like what are the lessons we've learned from hiring on the continent? And maybe this is specifically for Sean and I. Glenn, maybe you have experiences from some friends that you can also share with us. But I think when coming to another country to live and set up, it's really important that you understand how to address talent, because if you get the wrong people, it can go bad quickly.
Yeah. I would say I guess if we're just going to drop a few second sound bites, I would say an important thing to do is check the references. I know a lot of times people kind of skip past that part, or, oh, I had a good feeling of it, and they don't really pay attention to the person that provides references. I interview the references just as hard as I interview the person who's applying for the job.
Now that's interesting, because I found references actually don't do anything. I hire for passion. I've learned CVs are crap. I've learned aptitude tests are crap. What I've learned is passion is unmatched. And it comes back to this saying in the book, From Good to Great, it's not as important where your bus is going, but who's on your bus. I look for people that are passionate, that can take personal responsibility, and that look to improve themselves. So have you read a book in the past year? Have you learned a new skill in the past year? When you saw yourself lacking, how did you address that? These are the things I look for when I'm hiring now based on my past experiences.
I felt like I've told lies to all those things.
I can give you one. I can give you one pointer on that, and I don't know if it would be completely applicable on the continent. But one of the things that I have always done is you put people in with live fire, right? So you say, all right, like what I do if I put you out, and let's say I'm doing sales, I'm gonna give you the sales script. I give you the recordings. I give you everything that you need. And then I'm gonna put you on the phone and I'm gonna see how you do. And whether you learn it, whether you pick it up. And then, that's how that's one of the biggest parts of hiring for me is like, I'm gonna make you do it, And then,
I agree. This is something else I've learned this time when I went to hire. People had to do tasks that you would be doing in your day-to-day job for me to assess how well you actually do that thing.
Yep.
Let me drop my secret ingredient. One of mine.
All right, Colonel, go ahead now.
Yeah. We got KFC. We got all the original spices.
I think that's a symbol for something else, but I'm gonna let that pass. That's a G symbol as well. This is like a universal.
I thought there was the salt. I thought there was the salt.
Don't worry. I know you're not up on pop culture, Cordy. I don't judge you. You stay in your corner. I would say my secret ingredient is selling the dream. Selling the dream of the company, kind of charting a path for the person that you want to bring in that lets them know that if they do well, this would lead them to a certain spot. And when you do that, what you try to do is find out what that person is interested in and what that person is passionate about, and kind of interweave that into that dream story that you're giving them.
So then how do you deal with the disenfranchised dream? Because all I heard when you said that is, I'm a hustler, baby, and I want you to know. Like, how do you deal with this? Like, I feel like I don't want to sell you my dream. I want you to believe in my dream when you're coming on.
That's very entitled. I feel like people have their own dreams. I feel like the more talented and more skilled the person is, they're eventually going to get their own job anyway. And your job is to, while you have them, kind of what Glenn tapped into, is figure out how to basically what their successful skill sets are so you can replicate that. But at the very best, you have to enjoy that person while you have the pleasure of having them, knowing that some people are going to go, some people are going to come.
Yeah, but I'm looking for people that are going to stay and grow with us. So Glenn, like, how would you settle this argument between Sean and I of you can't maintain the best talent in me, you can maintain them, grow them, and enjoy all of their fruits of labor?
I don't think you guys are completely disagreeing, because I do a combination. So like one of the first things I do when I'm hiring is I create the narrative. I create the story of the business and where the people, I'm trying to get the people to go, paint the picture of where they're trying to go. I do that in ads, a lot of that's copywriting. I don't know exactly how it's done on the continent, or where the ads are placed or how the talent is attracted. But I know for me here, if I'm on Indeed, I use a lot of story. And we may have multiple steps, but like just painting the picture, one, the story. Secondly, breaking down to them the levels of how one step, two, and what that would look like for them. And then I make them self-select. So if you're not interested, okay, you leave. You know what I mean? And so that's one of the things is like multiple buy-ins. This is the same thing with business. Like if you say yes once, okay, if you said yes twice, all right, now you on the third yes. All right, so I know you're interested for real now. So now
it's the hook. It's the hook.
That's the hook. I got you now. So now I'm like, all right, yeah. And then also the one of the most important parts is my mentor taught me, take away selling. So you don't give it to them easy. You make them work for it and keep it like, look, I'm not sure if I'm going to hire you. It seems like you want it, but you need to prove it to me. And even with the best of the best, because it's like, a lot of times you just lay it down like, oh, this person's great because they fit, but then they haven't totally bought in. Then they end up just dipping on you. You want that person who's totally bought in, who's going to work hard.
And that's it.
That sounds like dating. That sounds like the same thing I was doing.
Hey, man, it's all the same. It's all the same.
This is like marriage. It's deeper than dating to me. This is like, I mean, we out here, no prenup, just looking at having babies together. I mean, we in it together.
Right, all right. We out here robbing streets.
At this point,
abroad Black After Dark, please. Abroad After Dark. Keep it to yourself. Keep it to yourself.
My bad.
So I just also have to say, because I know that you said right now you're mainly focused on the U.S., but we know there's a huge exodus of African Americans that are looking at or moving to the continent. So let's say someone wanted to be able to leverage what you're doing and look at building a business here on the continent. How do you envision that working? Do you see that as possible?
I do. I do going down the road. It's interesting that there are so many. There's so much stuff inside of HBCUs. One of the things, like my school is a land grant institution, so they are agriculture schools, right? So I'm gonna get to the person that's moving, but it's interesting that we have a farm at our school. I'd never been to the farm until like after I graduated, right? But they have agriculture degrees, and this stuff can be easily transplanted where you can teach somebody to build an agribusiness. When we were on the calls, talking with Kawaba, and he had a couple guys on there, and they're talking about the need for agribusiness, and I'm like, my school is an agricultural school. Why are we not doing this? Why are we not training our kids to set it up? Or alumni, you want to go build a business there? Here, get this certification, get this degree, and you have the support. So let's go take it over there. On the other end, I think what Sean is building would be a great fit for the alumni that want to come over. But also, if there is a connection where I can leverage the students or the alumni base, yeah, you moved over there, but then you may need skills that exist in the alumni base. And that's another part that I want to help people tap into, because not just me, but I'm every day talking to alumni, talking about what their business is, talking about what their skill sets are. But I feel like we all need to kind of figure out a platform to be able to tap into that, because it's like, all right, yeah, I moved to Ghana. Cordy's out here and she knows everything about, the political landscape. I need to tap in with her. And then, oh, by the way, there's a couple students that are at Jackson State, and they're in that program. If I need some help, those kind of things I think can work, but it's going to have to be built out eventually. It just has to build those roads, and those connections just have to be built.
And that's what we're here for. I think you touched on something. What I'm building here, I'm building out an internship program. And I think what's really interesting in another way, because me and Glenn went back and forth, because it's kind of like if there's not enough jobs for talent there, then how would I make sense of supplying talent for the African continent? But there's something that's really, really, really interesting. The fact that I'm actually able in many ways to siphon off or identify who's decent level talent here and connect them to businesses in the US. And they're basically able to do that at a lower cost than they could do that in a different way. But an interesting thing that I'm seeing on the other side is that technically before our 22-year-olds that are graduating from college and university here in the continent are not necessarily business ready. So for those more established companies that are ready to hire somebody at an entry level, the graduates from there would actually be the entry level talent that they could hire to use in their company. So I see kind of being able to like upscale and export, and then kind of take that raw talent that's coming out of the universities in the US and plug it into businesses here. So I do think well, go ahead.
Well, no, I would say, like, there was a video, I watched a lot of stuff. This guy, Wode Maya, he had a video talking about don't come to Africa for a job. That's one of the things that I actually believe that. I believe if we're going to be sending talent from the United States, we need to be coming over there with the skill sets that we already have, looking to build companies, and then teach this, teach the skill sets to the people that are there to work the businesses, so that we can build an economy, bring other kids over. Yeah, we can.
And that's it. And I'm not trying to knock anyone, but for me, Glenn, I 100% agree with this and echo, and particularly because really coming from a place like the US, like the UK, you already have so many other advantages. And then it's like you come to the local market and now you even want to take jobs versus creating jobs. Like it just doesn't make sense. And I think this is one of the things that we really have to be wary about is that if you know that you're not an entrepreneur, like how do you even connect up with maybe other African Americans, or like you said, that HBCU grad that is a little bit more entrepreneurial? How can you sort of push them and maybe get residual income or some feedback off of the business that they're doing, so that you're still contributing to a job, but maybe you're not necessarily the direct employer?
Okay.
I lost you for a second. I couldn't hear you, but.
Yeah, so I was saying, like, the thing is, how do we connect some of these African Americans that are coming over that, once again, may not want to be entrepreneurs, but how can we connect them maybe with these other young HBCU grads that can be entrepreneurs, or those people already on the continent, so that they can be getting some residual income and supporting the growth of a system without necessarily becoming the entrepreneur?
I've done a million jobs, right? I've done everything. I've had all kind of businesses. At one point, I was driving Uber, right? And I had this woman in my car, and it was a funny thing about like driving Uber. As somebody who owns a business and been a salesperson, I get into all kind of conversations. I mean, like I get to talk to people at a deep level. They're like, "Who is this dude?" Right? So this one woman, she's from India, and she was in the United States representing a company that's based in India that was setting up their office in the United States, right? Now they're bringing talent from India to the United States, but they're also starting to hire Americans, right? So this was something that me and Sean talked about. I said, I don't see any reason why we can't build companies in Africa that we then create satellite offices in throughout the world, because they do it everywhere else. Why can't we export our businesses and say, okay, we have a textile business. The business is based in Ghana, it's based in Nigeria.
Particularly now, because Prince is hot.
And so now I got these kids who are learning, business, fashion, and they're coming out of HBCUs. Okay, now you're gonna work in my business, or we're gonna set up an office in Panama and Costa Rica. I don't see any because I look at it, I'm like, this is what everybody else does. Why can't we do it? And so
because we don't buy our own stuff.
Exactly.
You have to set up a base first. So we have to set up situations where we're able to kind of engage in commerce with each other, to have money that flows into our communities and stays within our communities, enriching all of us, allowing these things to take place. So I think we're drawing ever closer to the end. This is a great conversation. We have to have a part 2 of this one.
No, I feel like we could have gone on for a long period of time. I mean, I feel like, Glenn, you've brought so much to the table. It's so interesting to hear about how you are trying to really cultivate that HBCU talent, make the linkages, and really help grow not only there in the U.S., but even potentially abroad as well. And I've also learned a lot from you, Sean, about your hiring practices.
Yeah, we create a vision. I'm a visionary, and people follow the vision. Come on now, don't come for me.
I just want you to know. Hey!
Let me give you this one before we wrap everything up. I want you to really go thumb through your Bible. I want you to go through all those books in the New Testament, and I want you to really think about who Jesus had around him. What type of people did he have to deliver his message? There were hustlers, there were tax collectors, there were gangsters. You have to bring the correct people to do the job. And sometimes you got to be the lion to be the sheep you want to be. That's all I'm saying. But I got nothing but good intentions for this world.
Nothing but
especially
good
for my
intention.
people.
I'm just a soul. Because of copyright, we can't listen.
Flame on. All right, I got you. Glenn, bro, drop some information, man. Where do we follow you? Where do we catch up with you? Give us some of that information before Cordy burn up my whole life.
I'm so not the online guys for the most part, but you can find me on LinkedIn, Glenn Adamafio. I have my website I'm building out for HBCU Thrive. It's www.hbcuthrive.com. And you know, I don't really accept too many people on my Facebook unless I'm cool with you, but hey, hit me up.
It's true. But Glenn, real quick, timeline. So let's say, because you said you're building out your website. So let's say I have a business. Now I'm interested in linking with you. What is the lead time to potentially get the support that I'll need from your organization? And is there an email? I know you're not, myself, I'm not into social media, but is there like an email or something else where people, if they have serious people, not like, I love what you said about that DAP and I'm with that, serious emails. Like, I have a company, I'm interested in acquiring some talent. How can I work with you or support you to do that? Where do people send those emails?
My email is Glenn. It's a GLEN at HBCU Thrive, HBCUTHRIVE.com. It's real easy to get in contact with me.
Right, and if you went to a HBCU, this is really the time to start supporting these types of initiatives. I know we see a lot of the sororities and fraternities coming into Ghana right now. So I think that this is really a key time. And I think that, once again, everybody on this Zoom right here on Abroad While Black went to an HBCU. So it goes to show that the power of what we can do when we can harness. So hopefully, if you went to an HBCU, hit Glenn up. Particularly if you're in that space, hit Glenn up.
Awesome.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. So, as usual, you know where to find us, Abroad While Black on Facebook. We also have our YouTube channel where you can find more series, more episodes. And we also have Instagram as well. So, yeah, follow us, look for us, Abroad While Black, and yeah, keep getting good content. Anything else you want to drop?
See you guys next time. Thanks, Glenn, for joining us today and sharing your vision. It's absolutely magnificent.
Thank you.
I really want to thank you guys. I appreciate it. I appreciate you both. Appreciate it.
Awesome. All right.